What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
We're going to get right into some football today. Hope you guys are excited. Today, we're going to be talking about some rule changes and some other things that are going on over in Las Vegas. Maybe a little Niners here and there. How about that? Our first topic of the day we're going to be talking about is the 3-quarterback rule. Mike, do you want to explain to the audience what's going on here with this rule?
Definitely. I'm going to just kind of read this off. The NFL approved the third quarterback rule earlier this month, allowing teams to dress an emergency thrower that would not count against the 46-man game day roster. Such a quarterback would only be allowed to enter the game if the two above him were to leave the game due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So the Kyle Shanahan rule, right?
Or the Brock Purdy or the Josh Johnson, whatever you want to call it.
I've heard people call it the Brock Purdy rule, and I'm like, it's not Brock Purdy's fault that Josh Johnson got hurt after Brock Purdy, exited the game.
Yeah, I think they're probably calling it the Brock Purdy rule because, last season Brock Purdy was the third quarterback. It's just interesting that it's a third quarterback and not maybe the fourth quarterback because I think some teams carry three quarterbacks like the Niners did. Or no, in the NFC Championship, did they only have Purdy and Johnson or did they have another guy?
NFC Championship, it was just Purdy and Johnson.
Yeah. Okay.
They used to have another quarterback. I think his name was it was like Kurt something Burkhardt.
Burkhardt. Yeah.
I don't even remember the name.
Yeah.
But I think he ended up getting released, and yeah, I don't know. The Niners could have signed a guy like Cam Newton, or I don't even know who else was available who might have been like worthy of a start. But typically, like when you're down to your fifth string quarterback, it's like GG's, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think the most interesting part about this rule change is that it doesn't affect the 53-man roster. I mean, maybe it does for a team that thinks we need to have that third quarterback, whereas before they'd say, just you have the 53-man roster, but then on game day you have a 46-man roster. That's why every game there's always inactives, no matter what. Sometimes those inactives are kind of questionable at times. Usually they're due to injury, but sometimes they're just healthy scratches, and you might question it. So with this, you can keep the third quarterback on your 53-man roster, but he won't affect your 46-man active roster on game day. So I think it's a positive rule change. I don't think it's good for the NFL when a team in the championship is out of quarterbacks in the third quarter. That's just tough to watch, But I can also see the other side where it's like, some might find it as like, oh, just because something happened recently, now they're changing the rule, I get that, but it's not changing the rule so horribly that it's making a massive change, at least to me. It's not like they're adding an extra roster spot from 53 to 54. They're just
I think they did. Sorry to cut you off. I think that they did a good job in. You said that it's only when the first two quarterbacks on the depth chart get injured, so you can't just carry another player, and then if your first two guys are just sucking, you're not just going to be able to replace them with the third guy. Or if it's garbage time, you're not getting that advantage of having a guy go out there while everyone else is, I guess, getting more wear and tear as the season goes on.
Right.
So, I think it's a pretty good change. Apparently the Lions were one of the teams that advocated for it. A lot of people associate this rule with the 49ers, and rightfully so. I think that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan in their postseason press conference, after they lost to the Eagles, I think that they said it would be a good thing for the league if this came back. But
yeah, and I like that it's conditional. I like that it's not, like you said, like you can't just throw in a quarterback whenever you want. Like it has to happen under certain conditions. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good rule change.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really unfortunate when that third string quarterback goes down. Then you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, but either way, you get down to the third or fourth quarterback. Usually, it's not going to end up very good. Now, again, like I said in our first episode, the Niners had the fortune of having Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy be this sensation last season. Usually, whether it's a third string quarterback of however many years or a rookie, like they're not going to play like Brock Purdy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to the next rule change that we're going to go over today. The next rule change we're going to be covering is the kickoff rule change. Mike, would you also like to disclose what's going on here?
Yes, sir. The NFL team owners approved a proposal that will allow teams that fair catch kickoffs and safety kicks behind the 25-yard line to spot the ball at the 25-yard line. And also, this rule will only go into effect for one season on a trial basis.
I find it interesting. I don't remember the last time the NFL implemented a rule that was only going to be, trial based.
Right.
I think I'm kind of mixed. I don't really know exactly how to feel about that, because if you're the football league, if you're the NFL, you should know exactly whether or not a rule is going to be good or bad for the game of football, and you should make a definitive decision on it. And if you are going to go through a trial period, why not try that during the preseason and see how that goes?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
why not partner with the XFL or the what's the other league now?
USFL.
The USFL.
Mm-hmm.
Why not see how they do with it?
Right.
And maybe they have those rules. I don't know. I just haven't paid attention.
Right. I think there are positives and negatives to this one. I know their intention is to prevent further concussions, or at least too many concussions.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're definitely trying as hard as they can as the league to prevent concussions, but I think at the same time, this really feels like the first, if not a major step towards potentially getting rid of kickoffs. And I wholeheartedly disagree with any notion of getting rid of kickoffs. You cannot take the foot out of football. That's just, no.
Well, there'll still be field goals.
There'll still be field goals, but I think if you take away kickoffs, chances are you're going to also get rid of punt returns. And then if you do that, you will significantly change the back ends of every roster in the NFL, because teams carry backup safeties, corners, linebackers, what have you, specifically for special teams, And if you take that away, okay, you keep the field goals, fine. For one thing, I don't know how you replace kickoffs, to change possession. I think punts on fourth down, I think punting is perfect. It just makes sense. Kickoffs after you score also just makes perfect sense to me. Like the whole XFL or whatever league it is that has like the 4th and 25 or something that you can attempt to get the ball back and keep a possession. That's ridiculous to me. That's like, if in baseball you end the first inning and then it's like, well, if we hit a home run right now, we get another inning at bat. It's like, no, like that doesn't make sense, I personally,
or like reversing it out.
Yeah, or something like that, it doesn't make sense. I don't want to go on a baseball tangent, but I think there are old school baseball fans and there are like new school baseball fans. I feel like an old school football fan. It's like, just don't mess with it. You know,
Mhm.
but I understand this rule change. I understand it, but it's always just made sense to me to if the ball is in play. Well, I mean, if the ball's on the field, it's in play. But if it's past the end zone, you got to go. You know,
Mhm.
and if you don't want to get concussion, slide something. I don't know, but get out of bounds.
Well, I
It
have
just seems. Go ahead.
I have, sort of an idea that I just thought about right now. If they're
Mhm.
so worried about the, players having space to charge up into each other and smack each other, helmet to helmet contact, why
Mhm.
not just make a rule so that way on kickoffs, the players on the kickoff team are closer to the blockers.
Right.
Um, I mean, that's just changing a lot of the formula, but it's just an idea. But what I don't want to see happen is them get rid of kickoffs altogether. I
Yeah.
think, it's what you talk. It's like a tradition. It's like, oh, what
Yeah.
time is kickoff, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
It signifies the beginning of the game, and I think it's important to preserve it because at the end of the day, these players know that they're not playing a safe game. Like,
Yeah. That's what they signed up for.
they're grown men who are uh, signing themselves up to make a lot of money playing the game that, I mean, most of them I would say probably still love football. Some of them it's just all for the money, and that's all it ever was. But they know what they're signing up for. There's tons of research on CTE, concussions, and it's not for the what do they say, the will of the weak.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not for people who aren't fully into it.
Right. I mean, we've seen guys before that, play a couple years of NFL football and then they retire. I forget the linebacker for the Niners.
Chris
Was he?
Borland.
Yeah, Chris Borland. I mean, even Kuechly, Luke Kuechly. He retired pretty early. Even Patrick Willis, I would say, retired pretty early.
Hmm.
Successful careers for both of those guys. And even Borland was as short as his career was. He looked like he was going to do some things, and then he just retires. And
Yeah.
I think, like you said, these guys make a lot of money, and I think there's a reason for that. Not only because of injury risk and all that, but also it's premium entertainment, and that's just how money works in this country.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think you brought up a good point earlier about how it's going to affect the roster construction because like you said there's going to be some, there's always safeties and defensive backs and sometimes even running backs who get just kept on the roster as a special teams player. If you eliminate the need for kickoffs, teams are just going to you're going to see teams keep way more wide receivers, and honestly, you're going to
it
see a lot more, I guess, offensive gadget players because
yeah,
you're going to be able to keep more players on the roster, and
right,
each guy can have their own specific, skill set. So it'll drastically not just change the game in terms of special teams, it'll change roster construction.
completely. Yeah, I mean, the way that teams do it now is, in the off season, like right now, we're getting ready for training camp, and you get a lot of veterans in free agency. Some of those veterans you can label as camp bodies.
Mhm.
Essentially, they're not going to make the roster. There's a defensive tackle for the Raiders. I guarantee you he won't make the roster. I think his name's John Jenkins. I could be wrong. They signed him. He was on the Dolphins last year. Um, but basically, when it comes down to time to get to the 53-man roster, that's when the teams are thinking, okay, we have our top 3 or 4 wide receivers set, our top 3 running backs set, our top X amount of these guys, this guy, the linebackers, corners, safeties, right?
Mhm.
But when you get down to those last 2 or maybe 1 or 2 guys at each position, there's a big bump for the guys that are good at special teams. Some guys shockingly get cut, and you think, whoa, we kept that guy instead of this guy.
Mhm.
Maybe this guy that they cut is a really good, big play receiver, deep, tall or fast, whatever, gadget receiver. But the other guy, although he's not as talented or doesn't have the experience at wide receiver, he's really good at playing special teams. And
Mhm.
that was just the difference for the team was, hey, we got to make sure our special teams are good too, because it's important, at least right now.
Yeah. No, definitely. You think we're ready to move on to the next rule change that I think you and I both have the biggest problem with?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this next rule is the Thursday night football flexing rule. Uh, and Mike,
I can
since
read.
you've already
Yeah.
done a fantastic job explaining the first two rules, why don't you take it away?
All right. It's pretty simple. If a game is scheduled for Thursday in a given week, and the NFL wants to move a better Sunday game into that Thursday slot, the league will just switch the two games. I mean, that's really it. Uh,
No,
but
go on. No, I'm
well,
just playing. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. No, no, you.
sorry, no, I'll explain it because I'm reading it. I'm like, this is so useless. A Sunday game. This is what it says. A Sunday game moves to Thursday, and a Thursday game moves to Sunday. Thank you.
Okay. Uh, I'll go ahead and say this is awful. This is awful for the players. This is awful for the fans. Well, this is awful for the fans who are going to the game. This might be good for the fans who are watching at home. You
Yeah,
won't get a shitty game on TV in prime time versus a game that you're probably not even going to be able to get to watch on Sunday.
right.
But for people who are planning to travel to a road game, you probably schedule your flight months in advance. I would
Mm-hmm.
say a good portion of people do, if not most, because flights can get expensive the closer that you get to them. And then now, I mean, did the rules say how soon that they have to swap? Is it the week of? Is it
I'm pretty
how
sure I
far ahead of
heard.
time?
I'm pretty sure I heard that they have to give 28 days notice, so 4 weeks.
Still,
Yeah,
honestly,
you
like
know,
a bunch of hotel and travel agencies are just going to make hella money off of it because
yeah,
people are going to be forced to buy that insurance that in case anything changes,
changes. Yeah,
they can cancel their flight. I think you can already cancel hotel reservations, but still, I mean, it's just awful. It's
yeah,
like you book a trip and you don't even know if it's set in stone because the league wants to just I don't know, give Amazon a better game. I think you set the
yeah.
schedule. Flexing Sunday night games is a little different. I'm still
It's
kind of
fine.
against it. I'm against it because if you're trying to plan out your Sunday, and let's just say there's a night game that you were planning on going to, uh, and it gets switched to an afternoon game, and you were gonna go to a party or go to church in the morning, you can't
Mm,
really get to it.
right.
Um, how far in advance do they have to let you know if a Sunday night game gets flexed? Do you know?
Um, I think I don't know if they have a specific amount of time because I remember a year or two ago they flexed. Maybe I'm thinking of like the Christmas week or like the final week of the season. They usually do that like a week or two. I think just a week in advance. My guess would be for Sundays it's only a week or two in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't have as much of an issue with Sunday. Really, not much of an issue. Um, but I mean, yeah, I some people. Let's say you go to a game in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
You can have a fun weekend. Let's say you take Friday off. You fly out early Friday, but you're not taking Monday off. You were expecting the game to be at 1 p.m. Western time,
Mm-hmm.
and you go to Vegas. You enjoy your Friday, Saturday. By now you already know that the game has been changed from 1 to 5 p.m. Now it's ending at like 8:30, maybe 9, whatever. if you booked a flight to go home Sunday night, now you have to push that back to later that night. I mean, that's pushing it. I know that there are a lot of people who go to games on Sunday and go straight from the game to the airport.
To the airport. Yep.
Yeah. So that's another one. You started with the people that this rule change isn't good for. I'll tell you who it's good for. It's good for Amazon, and it's good for people who aren't going to the games. That's it.
Yep.
That is it.
Yeah. And then still, I mean, even as a fantasy football player, you have to pay attention to when these games get flexed, because if you're starting a guy who's doubtful to play on Sunday or maybe questionable, he might be downgraded to out before you even know it. So I mean, if you're playing fantasy, you got to pay attention anyway, but still, it's like there is a casual audience of fantasy fans who maybe set their roster at the beginning of the week, don't look at it.
Yeah.
And then also too, you might get a team that's flexed into prime time, like let's say the Vikings, and yeah, we're not going to go into that.
Yeah.
But
Insider.
It's just really bad. And then as somebody, I used to play football. I used to play offensive line, and I have very fond memories of how great it felt to take the shoulder pads off after a game. But I also have memories of how it was to be super sore after a game and after every practice, really. I know in the NFL, maybe the practices aren't as physical and intense because they're trying to preserve the players for Sunday. But I know that after playing a football game, you kind of felt like you just got like hit by a train, and your body's just super tired. If you have practice the next day, you're just it's just awful. It's awful on your body. The players, the NFL players, have spoken about this a lot. Like when it comes to like having an extra bye week.
Yeah. They're not fans of Thursday night games. They are not.
They're not fans, period. And now the NFL has liberty to just go and say, you know what? The 49ers are a much, 49ers versus Seahawks is a much better watch than the Jaguars versus, you know what? The Jaguars
Texans.
are good now.
Texans. Well, it's Texans and Colts, let's say.
Yeah, Texans and Colts. And I don't know. It's just a straight middle finger to all the players who would be playing or who would be swapped to the Thursday night game. And it's a blessing for all the players who are going to be playing on Sunday. They're probably but it just really affects everything.
Yeah. I think one thing to take away from this, if you're going to go to a Thursday night football game, go between weeks 2 to like 5. Mm-hmm. Any week past week 5 is up for debate. So it's not even
don't support your team.
That.
Don't support your team.
It's unfortunately it's not even the teams, that should get the the brunt of this. Mark Davis came out and said this is a horrible rule, and he's wholeheartedly against it.
He is 100% right.
Yeah, he noted that this is just it's not good for the fans who are paying a lot of money to go to these games, and then you just throw them for a loop, and now you have to readjust all of your your plans for that weekend or whatever to go to this game, or you have to just cancel it. And it's like it doesn't make sense. This should have been a rule that would be a trial basis. This should not be. This shouldn't stay regularly. They should. They can try it, but if it's a failure, they should get rid of it.
Yeah, honestly, respect to Mark Davis for standing up to, standing his ground. I know the other owners probably didn't like it because what was the ruling like 24-6?
Honestly, I didn't really catch what the number was, but I remember hearing that Mark Davis was very much against it.
Anybody who might watch this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that 24 owners approved it and only 6 did not. And I know Mark Davis was one of them, or I believe
Yeah.
he was. I know he was publicly against it. Maybe he secretly voted for it. I don't know. But with that being said, this is going to make owners more money because ultimately, if Amazon gets a better product, they're going to want to pay more money for it because the next time they do, they do bidding for Thursday night football, other companies are also going to try and, I guess, be competitive in trying to get that because there's a whole lot of ad revenue to be made. And, it's just a way to skyrocket your brand in 2023 or whenever
100%.
year the next bargaining is. Yeah. So, you said everything that you want to say about the Thursday night flexing?
Yeah, that's about it. I would not plan on going to a Thursday night football game. There's no chance. And then that's the other thing. I mean, we said this, but it just now clicked in my head. Like, you can book a trip to a Sunday game right now. I mean, the schedule just came out. Like, this is the time, at least for me, when I like to get tickets is early, get it scheduled and booked, and I'm ready to go. And then 2 months from now, or probably more, maybe 4 months from now, I'm going to a game in November or whatever. Might be horrible math, but anyways. Now you can plan on going to a Sunday evening game, a 1 p.m. Western, 4 p.m. Eastern, whatever game, or even a 10 a.m. Western, 1 p.m. Eastern Sunday game. And all of a sudden, a month beforehand, they tell you, oh, this game switched to Thursday. I mean, it's literally just vice versa, but even booking a Sunday trip is risky now. Any weeks after week 5, it's a complete risk. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
All right. Let's go ahead and let's move on to a game that we might actually want to go to. Super Bowl 60 at Levi's Stadium. So recently, I guess the news came out that the 49ers would be hosting Super Bowl 60. Well, I actually don't know if the team is involved with it, but the Super Bowl is going to be hosted at the 49ers Stadium.
Right.
And I know that the Niners are borrowing like $150 million in order to do renovations on their
Wow.
on their stadium. And I honestly don't know what exactly will be changed by then. I think Super Bowl 60 is going to be in 2026. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct.
But I'll be excited if the Niners go. Maybe I will get that bucket list item. I won't have to travel to a Super Bowl. Although I think that would be pretty cool too. It's like travel for a Super Bowl, but super expensive.
Yeah, the price to go to a Super Bowl is it's bad. But yeah, I agree. That's definitely a bucket list thing that I would love to attend someday. I would love to go to a Raiders Super Bowl, but the 50-50 chance of paying all that money going and getting your heart ripped out, I don't even know if it's worth it to me, and that's a risk. But getting to see a Super Bowl at home where you don't have to fly, you don't have to pay for flight, hotel, Airbnb, whatnot, travel or rent a car or something like that, for it to be a 30-minute drive from home for us, that would be amazing to go to. But unless something magical happens, I don't see myself going,
I mean, it's just a lot of money for one, for like 3 hours. But
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
Like if somebody offered me Super Bowl tickets for free, dude, I'm there. I don't even care who's playing. I'm going.
Yeah.
I was this close to like if the Niners would have beat the Rams in that NFC Championship game and the Niners would have played that Super Bowl in LA, I would have been able to cross off 2 bucket list items. I would have been able to see Eminem perform at that halftime show which is one of my bucket list items, to see him live. And I would have been able to watch the Niners. I think they would have won that Super Bowl, but they didn't even win the NFC Championship game. So it kind of is what it is, like regarding that. But I think having it in Santa Clara, hopefully the renovations are going to be good. I heard that they're mainly going to be renovating the Jumbotron, and I think the seats. The seats feel pretty cheap in that stadium, so I think it's a good thing that they're finally going to do something about it.
Right. I don't know if there's anything else to say about the Super Bowl being at Levi's. I just have one thing. Unless you have more.
What's your one thing?
I have a deal to propose. I will, because I don't see the Raiders making the Super Bowl this year.
But you'll pay for me to go when the Niners go? Thank you, man.
No, not that. But I could see the Raiders in 3 years, if everything's done correctly, they can be a Super Bowl contender. Whereas this season, I think the Niners are a top 3 team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll offer you this deal. The Niners can go to the Super Bowl this year in Vegas and they can win it. And then in 2026, the Raiders will go to the Super Bowl in Santa Clara and win it. Let's shake on it right now.
But the Niners will for sure win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, as long as our teams win the Super Bowl in each other's respective houses. Let's do it.
Who's the quarterback?
Doesn't matter. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Just give me I just want to see the Raiders win a Super Bowl. Oh.
You know what, Mike?
I haven't seen them win a playoff game, dude. Oh.
You've seen 2 playoff games in your life, right?
That's correct. Of my
team. Because you were too young to watch when they were good in 2003.
Yeah, 2002. Yeah. Rich Gannon. I didn't get to see that stuff. I wish, dude. I think Tim Brown would have been my favorite player of all time.
Yeah, but you would have been so pissed at that Super Bowl.
Yeah, that had
or at the Tuck rule.
Yeah, no, I don't think I could take the Tuck rule. I don't think I could handle that live. That would change me.
Yeah, who was the head coach of the Super Bowl the Raiders lost that back in that era?
Good one. Yeah, very good.
Nice little segue. We're going to be talking about John Gruden working with the Saints. Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
They essentially good for John Gruden. I think I don't want to say the wrong thing here because I don't support what he said. What he said was horrible and stupid, and
it really sounds like you do. God, you're awful, Mike.
No, I don't. But I think that there's this thing called freedom of speech. I'm really walking the tightrope right now, right?
Hey, Mike, since you read the rules earlier, why don't you read what John Gruden said in those emails? Huh?
Oh, no, I'm okay. But I think this is perfect because I think that outright canceling a person for what they said 10, maybe 15 years ago is just ridiculous. I think that this opportunity that he has with the Saints, he's not becoming an outright coach. He's not necessarily getting hired on for the season. He's just helping to implement an offense. And I think that's cool. I think it makes sense. And I think this doesn't happen without Derek Carr.
Yeah. You want to know what I think?
What's that?
I think that, he was definitely pushed out of the league. Somebody didn't want him in the league, and they pulled up those emails and they got him out. And whether he was going to be fired regardless of the emails, definitely not that soon. But he had a lot of time left on that deal. It really screwed over the Raiders, because Mark Davis owed John Gruden a lot of money. And I just have to say the NFL is very hypocritical because they preach all this activism stuff, but the stuff they actually do, their actions, I really don't think that they care that much. They're a business, and they're just looking to make money. And John Gruden, you can say what you want. He's been around the league for what, like 30 years plus.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't really have an opinion on whether he's a great coach or not. It's been a very long time. He's won a Super Bowl as a head coach, but it just shows that the NFL is waiting for people to just sort of forget about it, and then they'll bring people back.
Yeah. You bring up a good point in the hypocrisy because
Hypocrisy.
yeah, hypocrisy. Um, this is kind of I don't know what the word is, like contextual, but when you compare this to Colin Kaepernick, and I know this will kind of get you sitting up straight talking about Colin Kaepernick, but
what did you say?
Yeah, I said Colin Kaepernick.
It's my guy right there.
Yeah, what Colin Kaepernick did was not a wrong thing. And, he essentially gets blackballed and he cannot come back to the NFL. There's just no chance of it. Whereas John Gruden did a wrong thing, although he didn't do it publicly, it got leaked out, but that doesn't matter. He did a wrong thing. And it was while using, or at least contacting other NFL people, it was a bad look, and yet he gets another opportunity, although granted a very small opportunity. And I really do think that this is also contextual in the sense that no other team was going to hire Gruden. I don't even think the Saints hired him. Maybe hired is the right word, but it sounds to me like he only spent a week or a couple weeks with them to help implement their offense, and then he's back home, on house arrest essentially. But I think if it weren't for Derek Carr, this doesn't happen. And I think that the people in the Saints organization were willing to do this, whereas other teams wouldn't be. But it's just interesting that in this context, he gets a chance, but in Colin Kaepernick's, it's like, oh, but he's too much of a distraction that he can't get a backup job. Like a couple of years ago, I think he would have been one of the best backups in the league. So now
I still feel like there's some quarterbacks who he would still be better than now. Probably not any of the starters, but there's definitely some backups and third strings that, like, there's just skill wise and talent wise, there's no reason why they would be on a roster instead of him besides the political aspect.
Yeah. And like a player I'll bring up right now is Calvin Ridley. Like, he's been out of the game for 2 years now, I think.
He stepped away 1 year for mental health, and then he got suspended another year, right?
Yeah, he got suspended for sports betting on the NFL. It was just like, what are you doing? But point for this one is just when you step away from the NFL for an extended period of time, your body is not conditioned the same. So I think that's where it would be hard for Kaepernick, and it will be hard for Calvin Ridley, whereas, Gruden's a coach, like it's all up here, but I don't know.
What about Deshaun Watson?
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson was out of the league for a little while, and he was the first and only player to get a fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
And the team traded a ton of draft picks to get him.
Yeah. And that was all horrible looking. And that's a great point. And it really brings us full circle back to the Thursday night flexing. This is all just the NFL picking and choosing what is best for the NFL. That's it. Deshaun Watson is, when he's good, or when he was hot, before all this stuff happened to him, he was going to be a perennial Pro Bowler. Like, he was that good. And he might still be, but last year he didn't look like it. But again, extended period of time away from the NFL, he looked different, right?
Mhm.
But when a quarterback of that caliber becomes available, and these teams felt comfortable with it because all the legal stuff looked like it was going to be fine, I guess. To them, it's worth it. He's a franchise quarterback, and it became a bidding war, and that's how the fully guaranteed contract happened. But regardless, it's a horrible look for the NFL because it's like, okay, again, Kaepernick did a considerably good thing, and because it was political, that's where, this country, it's 50-50, it's split, it's a two-party system. I have thoughts about that, but whatever. And the people that are against Kaepernick are going to be very, very loud about that if he's still on a team. And the NFL said, can't have that happen. With
Mhm.
let's just be honest here, with so many Southern and Eastern teams, that's not going to work.
Mhm.
There's going to be a lot of people that are like, well, I'm just going to go watch baseball or basketball or whatever. And yeah, like you said,
I
full
still see
circle.
a comment here and there that say, "Yeah, I haven't watched the NFL ever since."
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That can spark a much longer conversation, but those conversations were had many years ago. Um, it's just what it is like you said, it's hypocritical of the NFL. It's picking and choosing what is best for the NFL. And yeah, as far as John Gruden though, like I started, like it's nice to see him get even a small shot because I the negative things that he said aside, I liked him as a person. Like I think like you and I were talking about this off camera. Derek Carr put it pretty well, which is I hate the sin. Right?
I
How
love
you
the
said,
man, but I hate the sin.
yeah. Like I think John Gruden. I don't think he's a bad guy. Maybe he is, but he. I grew a soft spot for him, because he was the coach of my team, right? And then this
Mhm.
happens. It's just weird, but it's like with him, in a completely different sense, Derek Carr. Like I want to see them succeed, just like for you and Kaepernick. Although with Gruden, again, it's more of a negative, and Kaepernick, it's different,
Well,
But
it really depends on like what your morals are.
yeah,
Um, but I would say nobody in their right mind would support what John Gruden did.
yeah, no,
Because I don't think there was anything positive about it.
no,
Um, because it was just, I mean, it was just uh, offensive emails.
yeah, it was bad.
And it was a different time. I think
Yeah,
I think people can sort of, I mean, he can kind of be defended on that because back then people were saying other things. They weren't even thinking about how it affected others.
yeah,
Um,
and also just the fact that it was private, like,
yeah, and it's
and
like, yeah,
I'm
it's a private
I'm
email.
not I'm not trying to sell it short or anything. It's just I don't know. I said this freedom of speech thing like that. Hopefully summarizes it a little bit, but not again selling it short. Like it's horrible. It's stupid. It was very stupid of him. I wouldn't do that. But
But you're just I guess trying to say that you don't think that his entire life should be dictated on something that was clearly a mistake that he shouldn't have done, and
right.
you probably don't think it reflects how he feels now.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I would be inclined to agree. I just don't know John Gruden, and
Same.
that was the coach of your team, and I would say personality wise, he was just kind of a funny coach. I mean,
Yeah.
he was Chucky. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. He
like I
when
tell
your
you what,
nickname is
man.
when your nickname is Chucky, you clearly have a dark side to you.
Yeah,
But
and he had a dark side for what 10 years, 100 something million.
yeah, actually that was something I wanted to kind of comment off of. Like you said, that really hindered the Raiders. I I was kind of back and forth with him, kind of similar to Carr towards the end, where more so for Gruden, where I felt like this wasn't working. It's time to move on. And I think, like I said in our last video, I think Mark Davis wants a head coach and GM tandem to stay for a long time and build their team. And I think he wanted that with Gruden, clearly with that contract.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it wasn't working. And it felt to me like if 2021, his final season up until week 5, didn't lead to the playoffs, it felt to me like he should be done, and then everything happened and it didn't matter, But I think that he wasn't really taking the team anywhere, he was making horrible draft selections.
Dude, what was it? The 2020 class where Ruggs went? That entire draft class is like gone.
Well, that, and also like I just couldn't help but laugh. Like just the other day, I saw the Twitter notification or ESPN notification that Damon Arnett just pled not guilty to a weapons charge, but he could potentially face 10 years in prison. Literally, he and Henry Ruggs were both the 2 first-round picks. The year before that, we had the 3. That second year, we had 2 first-round picks. Both of them are potentially jail-bound. It's like, what a fucking joke.
Hey, I guess that's what you get when you move a football team to Las Vegas, huh?
It probably provides a higher likelihood of something like that happening, but I really don't think that the city is causing that. I think that if these players were in Miami, it would have the same likelihood of happening,
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of these players don't really go to the Strip that much. Some of them, they live that life and whatever, but it's a matter of who they are as a person. They need to know, and they need to be taught or whatever how to act, because if you or I just got a contract, we get drafted to the NFL or whatever, and all of a sudden you get a contract that guarantees you $3 million a year. It's like, compared to what we're getting right now, it'd be like, I don't know what to do with that, and
probably invest it, save it.
Yeah, you and I would be smart, but these guys are like, let's get a super fast car, let's go get drunk tonight. Oh, I can't leave my car here. I got to drive home, and then a woman and a dog is dead,
and the rest
and your life is ruined. Yeah, it's like,
it's
the person.
That was a really unfortunate situation.
It's horrible.
But I think the last thing I'll say with the whole John Gruden thing, I guess I just kind of want to make my point, is that if the NFL was really about activism and, trying to create social change, they wouldn't let John Gruden anywhere near a football team because of, just a couple of years ago, there was public backlash. The NFL, I think, really doesn't care, and they're putting on a facade that they care.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's all about what is best for the NFL. That's all that they care about. You're completely right. If you compare this, John Gruden, to Colin Kaepernick, it's clear. That's all.
Mm-hmm. It's about the bottom line. So
yeah, it's about the money.
Yeah, and I think you were saying that the John Gruden and the Raiders contract didn't work out. Why don't we talk about another Raider whose contract might be in jeopardy?
Very good.
Are you ready to move on?
I'm ready to move on. You're an absolute pro with these. What do you call that? What's the word? Going from one topic to another. Forgetting the word. There you go. Yeah.
But let's talk about Jimmy Addendum G. Mike thought of this excellent headline, by the way.
Yes. So essentially, the reason why we have the word addendum in there is because the clause in Jimmy G's contract is called Addendum G. Okay, so let me just read this. This is from The Athletic. Okay, the clause called Addendum G is a waiver and release. The clause says that without the waiver, Garoppolo would not have passed his physical to sign with the Raiders. because of a pre-existing metal and middle. Oh, that's a really hard word. Oh boy, I
Medial?
no Cuneiform.
I
I'm gonna
completely I
yeah.
completely lost you.
I'm gonna say wow. That's the toughest word I've ever seen. Uniform and a fracture of the base of the second metatarsal in the player's left foot. In the clause. Okay, that's what you're hinting at.
Yeah, that was the
Okay,
surprise.
very good. Oh god.
That scared the shit out of you, dude.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. All in my ears. In the clause, Garoppolo acknowledges the risk of further injury while playing football, including permanent disability, loss of motion, and other problems related to his left foot. And he reportedly waives all responsibility from the Raiders, NFL, and other related parties regarding his foot condition. Um, Garoppolo agrees that any dispute over whether an injury involves the conditions listed in the addendum's first paragraph will be resolved in the discretion of club's physician. The clause preserves Garoppolo's ability to seek a second opinion on the injury. Here's where it is most important. According to Pro Football Talk, the Raiders have the ability to terminate the agreement with no further obligation for any reason related to the waiver and release attached as Addendum G. The waiver reportedly becomes null and void at any point during the 2023 season if Garoppolo passes a physical, is active for at least one regular season game, and does not re-injure his left foot in the manner described in the addendum. So, I mean, that's a lot, but
So the way I understand it is that the Raiders agreed to a contract with Jimmy Garoppolo back in March when free agency began,
yeah, like the second
and
day of free agency.
they were going to hold a press conference, to I guess open up Jimmy to the Las Vegas media and market it to the fans. And I guess news came out that Jimmy Garoppolo did not pass his physical, and it
It
turns
was a
out that
rumor. It was a rumor at that time.
well, yeah, it was a rumor at that time that he didn't pass a physical, and I remember at that time they postponed the press conference, and it was like a mirror image of what the San Francisco Giants were literally just going through with Carlos Correa,
Right.
and so people were just assuming that Jimmy did not pass his physical,
Yeah.
and I mean, which turns out to be true.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't pass it, and the reason why they postponed the press conference was because they had to rework the contract, and all that guaranteed money that he was going to get got pushed onto the base salary.
Correct.
And
It
then
was going to
so
be an even split for this season between a salary bonus of 11.25 million and base salary 11.25. Instead, no what did I just call it? I just lost the word. Um, salary bonus. There's no initial salary bonus. It's all base salary if he passes a physical.
Mhm. So like Mike said, if Jimmy doesn't pass a physical by week 1,
By week
the
1, yeah.
Raiders can get their full refund on the Jimmy Garoppolo deal. And based on what you just read, can the Raiders just cut him at any point and get the refund back, or do they have to give Jimmy the opportunity to at least try to go the offseason rehab and try to be able to pass a physical?
It sounds to me like they can cut him at any point until he passes a physical or is active for one game.
That's really tough. That's a
That's
huge
wild.
setback for the Raiders.
I mean,
And
it's a
they're a
setback
team
for
that
them.
really didn't. They're a
Go
team
ahead.
that really didn't need a setback.
Yeah, it's a setback for the Raiders, but also, they're in the contract wording. they're looking out for themselves. This kind of reminds me, in a way, not really, but in a way, of Derek Carr's contract that led to his release. You know,
Mm-hmm.
where they essentially don't owe him anything this season or next season, even though on the contract originally it was a 3-year deal. But by a specific date, they could cut him without owing him anything further.
Mm-hmm.
But this is more in line with obviously injury and passing a physical and whatnot. I've never heard of this. I've never seen this before, and it probably has happened to lesser players. I shouldn't say lesser, but lesser known players. And it just doesn't get out because I mean this took over almost 2 months to get out. So it's interesting timing that this came out.
Well, no,
Um,
I mean the timing is that teams and players are reporting to OTAs, and
oh yeah,
now the
true.
media is there, and you know if the media is there and they're looking at all the players at practice, where the hell is Jimmy?
Hmm.
They're going to ask about it, and then so Josh McDaniels can only hide for so long, so he just can. I think Josh McDaniels probably was the one that announced it at practice. I'm assuming, or if it was just a reporter that got the inside scoop before that.
Yeah,
Uh,
or they were, yeah, like you said. I think it had to do with the OTAs because I'm not trying to change the subject here, but actually, I'm not going to talk about that yet. We'll keep going on Jimmy G.
mhm.
Um, yeah, it does sound to me like they can cut him at any point. Um, until week one, until he passes a physical. Um, I don't exactly know how the re-injuring the foot would affect it. If he re-injures it while practicing for the Raiders, does that put them at fault and then they have to pay him? Or is it that, what I read says that he is acknowledging that if he re-injures the foot specifically, maybe it's specifically that second metatarsal, that that's him and not them,
Mm-hmm.
and he acknowledges that and then they can cut him. I don't know. But
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure because contracts can be tricky.
yeah.
There's a lot of wording in there that can be interpreted in a number of different ways, and that's what agents and the front office that's what they have to go through, and they've
Yeah.
already went through it. Um, I don't want to say that if he re-injures it, that he's going to be on the team, he's going to be cut, because I really don't know.
Right.
Uh, it sounds like, from what you said, if he re-injures it that exact same foot, like the Raiders are going to be off the hook for him. Uh, I just think that this this is just it's terrible because I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo would have been a suitable bridge quarterback for the Raiders. And I guess the idea of the season, this year was to build a new culture around a guy who has a high personality or, high character guy. He's very professional. And there's a chance that he might not even be on the team.
Yeah. I think, yeah, you bring up a really good point because, I didn't know if we are going to talk about this, but just really quickly, there was the news last week or 2 weeks ago about Devonte Adams, and an article came out where he said something along the lines of, I don't see eye to eye with where the front office sees the quarterback position. And then, a week later, this news comes out. I don't think that coincides. I think it's more in line with the choice of going with Jimmy Garoppolo instead of Derek Carr. And then also potentially, if he's really in the know, which I think Devonte Adams is, potentially being told, yeah, we're planning on drafting a guy soon, within the next 2 seasons. I can see why Devonte Adams wouldn't want to have to deal with a rookie quarterback because I think, in a way, he got out of Green Bay to avoid that, with Love. Um,
Yeah.
But I think Devontae Adams came to the Raiders to win, right? He wants to win with the Raiders, and he has since had a press conference where he cleared the air. There's nothing wrong. He's fine. He's not going anywhere. He's not getting traded, nothing like that. He wants to win with the Raiders. And so does like guys like Josh Jacobs. They want to win. Okay. Josh Jacobs has said if the Raiders before the free agency started, if the Raiders went out there and went crazy, like adding to the team, big names, yada yada yada, he would take a little hometown discount to make the team better. But if they're not going to do that, if they're going to be rebuilding or something like that, you better pay me, is basically what he said. And I totally understand that.
So you said that Devontae Adams wants to win. When did he say that he was unhappy?
I
Did
don't
he
think
say
he
it like
did.
on a podcast? Did he say it to a reporter? Like, well, the he doesn't see eye to eye. When did he say that?
Um, I'll have to look for it. It was on, I think, The Ringer. I could be wrong though.
But it was
Um,
like on a show with somebody, or he did an interview with somebody
he
and told them that.
interview. He did an interview, and he's a very well spoken, very forward person. And I think that when you write these things down on an article, and especially if you put it in the title or something like that for clicks, it comes off a very negative way. Whereas really he's just saying something very truthful, which is, hey, look, I like he probably delivered it to this lady, I think, like this. Like, look, I don't see eye to eye with their decision at quarterback, but I'm here to stay. I'm gonna win. Like I'm here to win. I want to win with this team, and I'm fully invested in this franchise. Like something along those lines. Let me see if I can find the article.
Mm-hmm. Because if you're Devontae Adams and you want to win with the Raiders, uh, it's one thing to say exactly what you just said,
Mm,
but if you're going on these podcasts and you're leaking, that you're not fully in line with what's going on, you're not helping. Even if you feel that way, I feel like the best thing to do if you really want to win, just keep it to yourself because I don't think it's going to help. What does the public knowing how you feel, how does that help? It only hurts the team, in my opinion.
right. Yeah. I think it's tough when you probably get asked to do an interview and then they ask you a specific question. It's like, okay, how do I answer this? Like again, I think he's just a very forward and truthful person.
Well,
Um,
I mean, respect to Devontae. I mean, he's telling the reporter how he actually feels. A lot of people will just lie, but
mhm.
some people might choose to, just say, I'd rather not answer that question. And I think we would probably be analyzing that anyway. If
Mhm.
he didn't want to answer, it would probably make headlines too, just because it's Devontae Adams.
Right. I mean, bear
But
in mind, he came to this team under the thought process that this is Derek Carr's team. That's my buddy
mhm.
from college. Yada. That's my best friend. Yada yada yada. And then things changed. And he viewed Derek Carr probably as like a top 12, 10 quarterback in the league. He probably doesn't view that for Jimmy Garoppolo. And also just he's not dumb. He probably knows the injury history behind Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's like my whole point to this Devontae Adams thing is if Jimmy Garoppolo is cut or plays, let's say, 10 games this season, and the Raiders win 6 games, you know, is Devontae Adams happy? I doubt it. You know, I think that,
I don't even think he's going to be happy even if Jimmy Garoppolo plays because I'm going to tell you right now, their skill sets don't match. Devontae Adams is a
yeah,
more down the field threat, and Jimmy Garoppolo is a more well, under Kyle Shanahan, we saw dink and dunk. Maybe under Josh McDaniels, it'll be a little bit different. But when I see Jimmy Garoppolo, I see a quarterback who's afraid to push it down the field because he's going to turn the ball over.
yeah, I think Devontae is a exceptional all around wide receiver. I think he's insanely great, off the jump, like right at the start of the route. He's very good at creating immediate separation. I think that suits well for Garoppolo, but yes, I agree. When it comes to the downfield, you know, it's going to be a lot different with Jimmy G. and that's probably going to irritate Davante Adams. So here's what Davante. Well, let me open it. I mean, this is just one quote. It says, "I'm going to have to buy into this and try to be as optimistic as possible. It's not what I expected to happen, but it's something that's the reality now." Let me see. I want to find the specific quote, though. I mean, that sounds very negative, though. It's like, oh, I wasn't expecting this, you know.
And I just want to also say I like Davante Adams. I think he's a hell of a player. I respect Davante Adams. I just also think that if a player does something that I don't agree with, I think I have. I mean, people can choose whether to accept my opinion or not. But I don't think critical. I don't think being critical is necessarily always a bad thing. And maybe if Davante ever sees this, which I don't think he will, because I mean we're just starting our show. But let's just say later down the line this gets pulled up or something. Maybe he might learn something. But by that time, I'm sure he will have already learned, whatever. And Davante already knows more than me, so I'm not even gonna act like what I'm saying is something that he doesn't already know, because he's a very smart player. I think he's a smart person. He knows he signed the contract. He knows he's with the Raiders for the long run, and I just think that my opinion is, if he came here to win, he should know that it was going to be a very hard feat. And, they didn't win last year, and he should have thought about the possibility that the Raiders might move on from Carr if they don't have if they don't make the playoffs or whatever. That could have been discussed even before he signed his contract. I don't know if they would have told him the truth, but
right.
It's just all things to consider, because the NFL, at the end of the day, kind of theme of the show, the NFL's a business.
Yeah. I think when you come into a new regime, you have to temper your expectations, and that goes back to what you said about John Gruden, and his tenure ending. It's like it does make it harder for the team, because I think I said this in the first episode. When a new regime comes in, they want their guys, they want to implement their systems and all that. And there's usually a big upheaval in the roster, a lot of change. And it's hard to make those changes and win, And I mean, again, the thought process behind last season was, well, we're going to come in here and we're going to try to win with Derek Carr, Davante Adams, Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, Josh Jacobs, Colton Miller, et cetera, et cetera. But, the defensive backfield needed a lot of help and change, and the offensive line needed some change, and the linebackers, defensive tackle, So it even quarterback, I would say, needed change. So here's what Adams said. Still, Adams has. This isn't what he said. Still, Adams has reservations about the Raiders' vision for the offense. This is what Adams said. In quotations, the front office think this is the best bet for us right now to put us in a position to be urgent, he says. We don't see eye to eye on what we think is best for us right now. And then he says later, I'm going to have to buy into this and try to be as optimistic as possible. It's not what I expected to happen, but it's something that's the reality now. I'm assuming that's kind of about Derek Carr. I have to keep going, scrolling down. Well, I'll just say this other quote just because it's big and green. My goal is to win a Super Bowl with this team, and that's why I didn't come here just to be cute with Derek Carr. It is to really try and have a shot and change this organization. That is something he said later in this article.
How old is Davante Adams?
I believe he's 29, might be 30.
Okay. So Davante Adams should have known that he's not getting any younger.
This
How
is
long
this
has
is
he
the
been in the
end
league?
since 2014. This is the end years of his prime.
Yeah.
So, him making a massive difference on a team, that's happening right now. So I understand him, being urgent and all that. I also understand him wanting to go to his hometown team, but it's tough. I mean, when he came here, and you see Derek Carr and you see Max Crosby, you see these, and they signed Chandler Jones. It's like it looks like it's on the up and up, but you also have to consider the division that they're in. Another thing you have to consider, though, he didn't want to stay with the Packers. He didn't like how uncertain the Aaron Rodgers situation was, and it ends up he was right about it. A year later,
Yeah.
he's off to the Jets, and I
Well,
don't
because every
think
offseason, Aaron Rodgers is like,
he's mulling
I don't want
retirement.
to be in Green Bay.
Yeah,
And then I don't know. I just think Aaron Rodgers, he can't necessarily decide. Uh, well, he does decide that he wants to keep playing football, but I just wonder how much he actually has interest of still playing. He looks happy on the Jets and he looks motivated. He looks more motivated than he has in a couple of years. So
for
hopefully
sure.
that's doing dividends for him.
Right, but just as far as Devontae goes, I think what happened to him was probably the grass is greener on the other side type of viewpoint, where he saw
Yeah.
the Raiders and it was like, that's my hometown team. Like, if I were in the NFL, I'd be like, I have a shot to get traded to the Raiders. Yes, please. And then after a year, you're there and you're like, oh man, I miss winning. Like, it's, it makes sense, but and it's not like he said, I miss winning. It's just right now, it's clear that this team needs to build. It's sort of in a rebuild mode, and that's not
Sort
what he
of.
came here to. It, yeah, I mean they are. I'll say sort of because I think a full blown rebuild would be like what John Gruden did. You trade Mack, you trade Cooper, you start over. This regime has not started over yet. You can say that when they draft a quarterback, that's starting over, but they're keeping Max Crosby. I think they're going to try to keep Josh Jacobs. They're going to try to keep Devontae Adams. Um, I they're definitely going to change the defense a lot, but I think the offense so far stayed very much the same. I have some thoughts on Hunter Renfro for later, but I I don't think this is a major rebuild. I think that this is more of like a retooling right now. Um, More last year than this year. Like this year feels different, but it's like they signed Jimmy G. Just to get back to Jimmy G, they signed Jimmy G to try to go out there and be competitive. You know, and you're doing that on the hope that he can be healthy. So I mean, the fact that we have this issue with his foot post contract is disturbing. You know, um, but I think that they are trying to win. I think that if you're a team that's trying to rebuild, I think you would look more like the Buccaneers right now, or you would look more like the Panthers. You know, um, but again, I've said it in the last episode. I fully believe that if this team doesn't go out there and win games relatively early, they're going to draft a quarterback. They have to, in my opinion. I think that I don't know. They have needs on the defensive side too, but I think next the 2024 draft is when the window opens for them to pick a quarterback and for it to be the right time when it comes to rookie contract and all of that, helping team with cap space and whatnot. But as far as Jimmy G, it's like if you do cut him, which granted, just to be clear, I don't expect them to. I really don't. Um, I mean, I can go out there and give you some conspiracy theories, including Tom Brady. You know,
What, that
and we
he's
could
going to
say,
suit up? I
I,
mean, I could see it. I could
I,
see him being the first player owner. I've heard that, or I think I read somewhere, other owners would be extremely opposed to this.
that, and also I don't think it's I don't think that's allowed. Now, Tom Brady isn't an official a minority owner yet. We should probably save that, for the next topic because Tom Brady is the next topic, and I feel like we're not done with Jimmy G yet. Just, I think that Jimmy G, he doesn't sign this deal if he's not confident that his foot will heal. I don't know how second metatarsals work. I don't know how foot bone breaking injuries work, but pretty sure bones heal, if you get the right surgery done and all that. He got a cleanup post contract. It's not like he just waited the entire offseason and then signed and then got a surgery to repair the bone. Like, it was just a cleanup. So he's expected to be ready for training camp. It might be a little into training camp, but I don't think this is going to fall through. But I didn't realize until we read this that the Raiders can cut him at any point. If Tom Brady were to become available, I 100% would expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be cut.
Yeah.
100%. And
would Brady be able to be a minority owner and a player at the same time? If he is, then I could see that. I just don't see Brady walking away from being a minority owner of an NFL team.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, unless he thinks that he can make hella money and then get another opportunity, or if Mark Davis is just gonna save it for him.
Well, that's the thing, is I think he's not buying this minority stake from Mark Davis. I think he's buying it from a particular other minority owner, because the Raiders they have like north of 4 part owners. Al Davis, way back in the day, just so happened to make the right deals to get 51% or a little bit more,
Is that all they have is 51%?
No, or he might have more, or now Mark Davis, but at some point Al Davis was able to get that 51%, and that's how he became the majority owner. And then I think soon after that he became like the GM and all that, or maybe it was the other way around, but regardless, and that's where it's led to now, but the minority owners, one of them is selling the stake to Tom Brady. I don't know if you can postpone it. Maybe Tom Brady could talk to the person or ownership group or whatever and say, hey, can we do this next year, please? I don't know. I'm going to search up right now if a player can be a part owner. Like, I know Patrick Mahomes part owns the Kansas City Royals, but that's another league,
Yeah.
So that's different.
I think professional athletes, I know for sure, can own another team in another sport, because I think Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and a couple people were trying to buy the Panthers a couple years ago when they were available. Yeah. So if they were trying to do that, then it's definitely a thing. I just don't know if the NFL has rules against it or.
Yeah. So right here it says that no, NFL players cannot own a team because the league's constitution forbids owners from playing on the field. And I was listening to a podcast earlier where they were kind of talking about this, and they were saying, like, imagine if Dan Snyder, if he still owned the Washington football team, just decided, because he has majority say, he's the owner. He could do whatever he wants. He can.
Yeah, he's like, fuck it, I'll play quarterback. Fuck you guys.
I'll play quarterback, and specifically, I'll play quarterback, and I'll pay myself this much money. That's where it's, it's, sketchy. So it makes sense. I don't I don't see Tom Brady coming out of retirement this time. I think he's really done. Actually, are we done with Jimmy G?
I wanted to say that I guess I just wanted to add that Raider fans don't deserve this. It was the Niners' problem, and I think Jimmy should have gotten surgery after, obviously, his foot was broken, and maybe he did. Maybe this is just a follow-up.
Yeah, this is a follow-up. This is a cleanup.
Mm-hmm. It's really unfortunate that it happened, and the Raiders needed Jimmy to come in and help change the culture. I really think that that's one of the main reasons why they brought him in, because
Yeah,
Jimmy
I
G
hadn't
is
thought
a
about that.
downgrade from Derek Carr, and um, the Raiders, I think, are a team that just lacks guidance and leadership. Obviously they have Max Crosby, they've they had Derek Carr, but I kind of feel like Derek Carr, even though he's a better and more talented quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that his relationship with the Raiders, it wasn't working out. It was unhealthy. It was just bad for both parties. They were bad for each other. It got to that point. I
I
think Derek Carr
agree.
was bringing in loser mentality, because even Joey Bosa said that once you hit Carr, uh, he's not the same player after. He
Right,
he hears footsteps, that kind of stuff.
right. I agree to an extent. I think that from what I've seen, players from the Raiders really support Derek Carr. Players that have played with him, um, and they find him to be an exceptional leader. I think he does a lot of really great things quietly, you know. And I think yes, on the field, as far as Joey Bosa goes, like yes, that happened, and that was something that really irked me ever since his big fibula injury. He wasn't the same in the pocket, and I get the loser mentality aspect of it, but
Because it's just, you've lost enough times on the same team. It's all you know.
right, yeah, it's tough. I think that like I can say that I have felt for a while now that the Raiders needed to make a change at quarterback, while also in the same breath saying I think that Derek Carr was dealt horrible hands his entire career with the Raiders,
Oh yeah, no, he had
absolutely
terrible
horribly.
defenses the entire time.
Yeah, and then every time it looked like things were going up, it was time for a new regime. So it just it nothing is black and white. Everything is gray, and there are positives, there are negatives. I
Actually,
think
everything is silver and gold.
there you go, but I don't think that they're so horribly lacking leadership. I just think that at quarterback they needed a change, and like you said, there was so much, losing and losing and losing that maybe that becomes a thing with the locker room. So you bring in this new guy who's been winning and winning and winning when healthy. But I will say, from what I've heard, as far as a leader goes, Jimmy G sounds like a guy who's barely available to people off the field, whereas Derek Carr is like, you ask him a question, he'll answer it. But again, there was a change that was needed. So if you're saying in the sense of winning and, bringing a winning mentality, I guess, then yes. But as far as leadership and lacking leadership, like I think Crosby is a fucking amazing leader on this team.
Mm-hmm.
His defense doesn't show for it, but I can tell that he is. And I think Devontae Adams is another one. Um, I think Josh Jacobs is the type of leader that kind of leads by example on the field. Like he has the winning mentality. And I think Devontae Adams as well. I think a guy like Hunter Renfrow is just one of those guys that doesn't say much. He just works. You know. And I think they have other guys like that too, like maybe Colton Miller. Um, but they do need more leaders, and I do think again they needed a change at quarterback for sure.
Mm-hmm. I have no doubt that when Jimmy Garoppolo puts on his, when he laces up his cleats, he's going to go out there, and the fact that he has so much experience winning, that's the mindset that he's going to be under. I think he takes it pretty seriously. Um,
Right.
I don't know what he does outside of football that's so important to where his teammates can't get a hold of him. But for whatever reason, when he was a 49er, the locker room loved him.
Right.
They didn't
Yeah.
want him to go. They didn't want
Yeah.
they didn't want the party to end. But
yeah.
um,
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
that's what
it
winning
was
does
time.
for sure. But that's what winning does. Whenever he's on the field, you guys win. It makes sense that players would say, why would we change from that? Why would we do that? You know,
In the same breath, Derek Carr, on the other hand, while I don't think this is all Derek Carr's fault, um, and I'm acknowledging that Derek Carr is a better player. He's also more expensive too, which is another reason why they're moving
it
on
made
from him,
sense.
because
Yeah.
he's not going to be worth the money that the Saints are ultimately paying him. But you lose enough football games to where I think that your mindset can get hindered once you reach adversity early in a season, to where if you're not winning games, it starts to become just another one of those seasons.
Yeah.
And I give a lot of respect to Carr and the Raiders in the 2021 season, because they had
Everything
dude,
mounted against them.
yeah,
Gruden, Ruggs. Yeah.
yeah, it was a ton of adversity, and they battled, and they made it to the playoffs, and they became within a play of advancing against the team that eventually went and lost the Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
still, I don't think the Raiders would have advanced beyond that. But
No.
it's just all the other seasons are surrounding that. It's just you've been through so much with this organization, and the organization has not been able to give you enough firepower, or a good enough supporting cast,
Yeah.
and it just starts to become another one of those seasons. Look at Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is a perfect example.
Mm.
They won a Super Bowl, and then after that, every season, if Aaron Rodgers was still on the Packers right now and they went to the playoffs, in my mind, I'm like, okay, what's going to be the next big way that the Packers fail Aaron
Right.
Rodgers again?
Yeah.
Because
100%.
that's just what it was every year. And Rodgers, it didn't even look like he was trying to do anything about it. He just had this look on his face where he's like, yeah, I can't believe this is happening. I don't want to be here. Like,
Yeah. It seemed like Rodgers really didn't believe in the coaching staff. And I think that's something that I can't quite give a full answer on yet about Josh McDaniels. When you read into and you listen to Devontae Adams and what he said, specifically in the press conference since the article where he says all that stuff about we don't see eye to eye, it sounds like Devontae Adams has a really great relationship with the front office and Josh
mhm.
McDaniels. Like, I would like to think that Josh McDaniels is doing a great job with like relationships and developing this team, however slow it might take. Um, but if the players start losing faith in the coach, that's when it's all bad. Like the quarterback, that sucks, but you can replace a quarterback. Like when you lose faith in the coach, just forget about it. It's done, you know. Um, but to summarize or finish up on Jimmy G here, um, I don't see this contract falling through, but if it did, the Raiders have some fucking work to do, you know.
I don't think that, you know,
Brian Hoyer is not a starter in this league. I thought he was just going to be a coach on the sideline, a player coach on the sideline, holding a clipboard all game. You know, he
yeah,
might be that guy that's the emergency guy, circling back to the start of this episode,
the Josh
that is
Johnson.
inactive. Yeah, exactly. Like. Barring injuries, he's not going to play.
Yeah.
Um,
Funny
yeah,
story. When Brian Hoyer was on the Niners, he did very well at that open practice that the Niners had and that I went to.
yeah.
And I think I tweeted out, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I said it like this, but I was like, Brian Hoyer's going to be a Pro Bowler. Like I was like, mark your calendars. He's going to be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
And
I remember.
and little did I know we would trade for a guy named Jimmy Garoppolo, who is now received a brand new middle name, Addendum.
Yep.
What is his actual middle name?
I have no idea. I feel like it's either like it's going to be something funny or it's going to be something like super Italian.
Oh, James Richard Garoppolo.
Oh.
I knew that. All right. I think I'm ready to move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jimmy.
Yeah. Sorry,
but,
Raiders.
Yeah, but I'm also sorry to Jimmy because we're going to be talking about the guy who's been shadowing his career the entire, every step of the way, whether it was on the Patriots, overshadowing, whether it was on the Patriots, whether it was on the Niners, now on the Raiders. We're talking about Tom Brady. Wherever Jimmy goes, the rumors and all the news about Tom Brady follows.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of talked about it.
We talked about it, but we should just kind of quickly summarize just to be safe here. Tom Brady is apparently soon to be minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. He has agreed to purchase a minority stake in the franchise. And I, for one, am elated. I think it can't be bad for the team. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, it could.
I guess. I don't really see it though. I mean, that dude's just a winner. Like, you want to talk about winning mentality? That's the ultimate winner. And just a fun fact, okay? I could be wrong on the first part, but I'm pretty sure when he first began starting for the Patriots, that season, he won a Super Bowl. I know for a fact the first season that he started for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I should say the first season that he joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? He wins the Super Bowl. The first season that he becomes a minority owner in the WNBA Las Vegas Aces, they win the championship that season. So I'm just going to put this out here right now. Tom Brady's going to become a minority owner of the Raiders, and we will win no more than 7 games this season.
Okay. So just in thinking about this, like I really had no basis on saying that, I don't even remember. Yeah. Oh yeah. It could be bad.
Anything could happen, but this dude.
No, you said it couldn't hurt, and I said it could. I said it could. And in thinking about it, as you were speaking, I just want to pull up a couple of examples.
Okay.
Michael Jordan won 6 championships as a basketball player and is arguably, I think he's the greatest player of all time. Other people have different opinions, and that's fine. We're not talking about basketball right now. We're talking about Michael Jordan. Right. He was the owner of the Charlotte Hornets, and he was not very successful at it, and he is no longer I don't know if he's selling the team or
right.
I think he's stepping away.
I think so.
Because I mean, you could be a great player, but if you don't know what it takes to own a team and to manage a group of people, I mean, obviously if you play quarterback or if like you're a leader of a team, you know how to manage people. But Michael Jordan's not the only highly successful player who has been an owner of a team. I think Derek Jeter was an owner for the Marlins.
Yeah.
Or was he a general manager? Dude, all right. Honestly, we should rename the show to Josh doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about and keeps second guessing himself.
But I think you're right. I think Derek Jeter became at the very least a minority owner of the Marlins, but maybe majority. I'm not sure, but I think it was minority. But another good example would be, and I could be wrong here, I'm pretty sure John Elway was. No, he wasn't a part owner. He was general manager, right, of the Broncos.
Don't ask me. I don't know shit.
Yeah. But it's up the alley of what you're trying to say, which is if you don't know how that stuff works, you could be setting yourself up to fail, Personally, I think when you buy a minority stake, you're not going to have any control. he can go in there and help Mark Davis if Mark Davis wants him to, which I don't see why Mark Davis wouldn't, you know. But as long as he's a minority owner, he's not going to have much say, you know. Um, I think what this really is a guy that can afford to make this kind of investment. And it's a guy who loves sports and wants to continue to be a part of the sport when he can't, when I shouldn't say can't, but won't play anymore when he's retired, you know. Um, and this, it just makes sense to me. I think, I honestly, it would have made a little more sense, I guess, if it were the Niners, because that's like his hometown team. But I don't know if they have any minority stakes up for sale. I kind of doubt it, you know. Um,
No,
and
it's Jed York's
also,
playground.
yeah, and also, I don't know, just the Vegas market. I think that just made sense. And there was the rumor way back in the day of like when John Gruden was the coach, Dana White tried to get the Raiders to get Brady and Gronk before the Buccaneers did, and it almost happened. It's just writing was kind of on the wall that Brady and the Raiders were kind of
Destined.
in a way, you know, and that's why I still hold on to this little like before he retired this offseason, I was convinced he was going to be a Raider this season. I was convinced it was either Brady or Garoppolo. Like I was for sure on that. Um, and
You
it ended up
also
being
wanted Daniel Jones.
I thought Daniel Jones would have been cool, but if you look at the contract that he got, I'm glad that didn't happen. I just think he's a little, I wouldn't say underrated, but he kind of flashed this season, and I think with his abilities, I think he can be very good, Daniel Jones. But yeah, it like you said, it kind of was starting to feel the past couple of years like maybe Tom Brady to the Raiders was a little destined, or at least once this happened, he buys a minority stake, and it was like this was just destined to happen, you know. And again, everything that Tom Brady touches turns to gold. I can't complain until something bad happens, which knowing the Raiders, maybe something bad will happen, but I knowing Brady, it won't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to think that he maybe helps the franchise in different ways. He's really hands on with the quarterbacks. I don't know. That'd be really cool, you know. He's not officially a part owner yet. Again, I believe the NFL has to vote on it or approve it, however that works.
No,
The
I mean
owners
he just
meeting,
has to pass his physical.
yeah, there you go. But yeah, for me, it's welcome. You know, I really, with all the history of him with the tuck rule and everything, and just how often he won. I might have explained this a little bit how I work as a sports fan in the last episode, which is I always root for the underdog if it isn't my team, you know. And seeing a team, go out there and just win and win and win, whether it's the Patriots or it's the Yankees or it's the Red Sox or it's the Celtics or it's the Lakers or whoever, as long as it's not my team, it's going to begin to annoy me, you know. And I like to see the wealth spread when it comes to sports, you know. And Tom Brady's career definitely annoyed me to the point where he became kind of a villain in my eyes. But then once he went to the Buccaneers, something switched in me, and I gained this soft spot for this guy who was undeniably the GOAT to me, going to a new team and just wants to prove, kind of like Rocky Five or Rocky Balboa, you know, and it's in a way, like he just wants to prove like he can do it on his own, you know, without Bill Belichick. He wants to prove like, no, I'm the GOAT, not Belichick. I'm the GOAT. And his first fucking season, he does it. I was like, you know what? I can't hate this dude anymore. That right there is he's him. He is him, you know. And now he's a part of the Raiders. I can't be more happy.
It's pretty respectable. I mean, we'll see how he can coexist with Mark Davis and the other owners. They have to all be in lockstep. I would imagine that Brady would probably be more involved than the other owners because until you just told me right now, I didn't even know there were other owners of the Raiders. Everybody, including myself, just only talks about Mark Davis.
Yeah,
And who knows? I mean, maybe Brady can take him to a barber. That would be first step towards cleaning up the Raiders. But
yeah, you never think about the minority owners. Usually they're pretty silent, But that's the other thing about him working well with Mark Davis. Mark Davis became the majority owner of the Las Vegas Aces a few seasons ago, and then Tom Brady jumps in and becomes a minority owner. And very soon after that, Mark Davis came out and said, "I want to work with Tom Brady more." And that was another reason why I felt destined was Mark Davis wanted to work with him more. Like it seems like they have a good working relationship. They've already won a championship together. Um, I think it can work out really well. And
the
you have to
Aces
just consider
are what sport? Is it
WNBA.
WNBA?
Yeah, you have to also consider right now the coaching staff and the front office also have ties to Tom Brady. So I could totally see him being very hands on, not in the sense of like being a coach or anything, but occasionally showing up at practice, helping out the quarterbacks or something. Just talking to players,
Well, I can
bringing a
tell you
winning
right now.
mentality
Yeah.
and
No,
culture
I mean
change.
that's a good point. I think it's good news already that they're working together. Um, I think if it was like a brand new, they hadn't worked together before, but it was like a bringing Tom Brady and that's a Hail Mary. That would be a little bit different. It's like, oh, we got Brady now. Now we're inheriting all these things when maybe they have different views on how to run the team, which I think
Right.
could still happen because
That could,
the WNBA is way different than the NFL.
totally. Yeah.
Brady is going to say, all right, you need this, 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 and this. And you have to remember, Mark Davis also he has to uphold his dad's legacy. Like that is huge. The Raiders have, that the storied history that was, built by Al Davis.
Right.
And, I mean, thinking about it, the best way to honor him would be to win more Super Bowls. So I think if he has to take a backseat to Brady, and if Brady can tell Mark Davis everything that needs, that's required to win a Super Bowl, then, just as long as Mark Davis is fine, not being the one, at the forefront, as
Well,
long as they're both on the same page, that's I
right.
think the main thing.
Yeah, I think what is key is being on the same page, but I don't think for a second at any point Mark Davis will give up his majority say or anything like that. Like he's always going to have the final say, you know. But I think if he's wise, he knows that having Tom Brady, the GOAT, by his side to help him with decision making, that's a person you should listen to, especially when it comes to like on the field sort of stuff. When it comes to managing a franchise, I think Mark Davis might know a little bit more as of right now. Um, yeah.
I wonder how Tom Brady feels about the whole Jimmy Garoppolo thing going on, but it's not official yet, so I don't think there's anything Brady can do if
My
he does
guess
have
would
something opposed to it.
right. My guess would be whenever he is approved as a minority owner, my guess would be that the Raiders would have a press conference for him, and that's when we'll probably hear some of his thoughts on certain things. Maybe it'd be months in advance from now, and Jimmy Garoppolo's contract won't be a topic anymore. But I am curious too what he thinks about that. But yeah, I would love to see Brady as a part of the Raiders as a minority owner again. I usually they're pretty silent. I wouldn't expect him to talk too much, but Brady is a personality too. So I could see him being on Twitter or something like hyping up the Raiders. That'd be crazy.
At the end of the day, I think this is good news, but obviously, as time goes on, we'll know if it was a good move or not.
Yeah.
I think we can jump into our final topic, and we're going to talk a little bit about OTAs.
Yeah.
Mike, you are welcome because I think you said that you had something that you needed to, or you wanted to talk about regarding OTAs for the Raiders.
Yeah. I definitely want to talk about the Niners here too, because I feel like this has been a very Raiders centric episode, but I also feel like we've gone way longer than we expected.
Oh
Again,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh, so I'll
Poor
try to be
Kia
quick.
is definitely asleep right now.
Oh yeah. I'll try to be quick. Just something interesting about OTAs, and really, I wanted Hunter Renfro to be a topic of discussion, kind of alone, a few days ago, but it's all kind of hearsay right now. If you want to talk about theories, I think it is entirely possible right now that the Raiders have a deal in place to trade Hunter Renfro in 2 days from now, uh, June 1st. Because if anybody listening has ever heard of the post June 1st
Designation.
designation, yeah, that is an event that is coming up this week. There will be a lot of moves made post June 1st. Because contracts, I don't know the exact details, but contracts are kind of affected differently, especially in like future years when post June 1st moves are made. So essentially, if the Raiders cut or traded Hunter Renfrow right now, it would make no financial sense. But in 2 days from now, post June 1st, it could make some sense if they get the right return, or if they just, for some stupid reason, want to just offload his contract, they could cut him. But again, that's stupid to me. I think he's too valuable. But if they want to shore up a linebacker or a corner or a safety, defensive tackle, or even an offensive lineman, I understand why they would want to trade him. Um, Considering how he played last year, I think he was a little on and off. He fumbled the ball a couple times, and he wasn't fully healthy. I can see why this coaching staff might have a little different feeling towards him than fans do. But at the same time, Hunter Renfrow is one of my guys. I don't want to see him go. So, but it's just interesting. There's been a lot of rumors lately, and I just kind of wanted to say, like, I do think it's very possible that right now there's already a trade in place that the both teams are just waiting for June 1st to pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's also possible that they're just waiting to cut him. But the other reason I wanted to bring up Renfrow is because OTAs obviously started recently, and the notable names that were missing from OTAs, and this is optional training. I don't know what it stands for, but basically the players don't have to come.
It's not
But
mandatory.
it's not mandatory. There you go. So Jimmy G, not there for obvious reasons now. That was, like you said, that's probably why everything came out. It's because he wasn't here. Tyree Wilson, first round pick. Funny enough, he is also coming off of a foot surgery. And that was a thing coming in and out of the draft, was that this was a concern with him. And just like Jimmy G, maybe a little bit more optimistically, Tyree Wilson is expected to be back by training camp. Josh Jacobs is missing from OTAs. That is because he was given the franchise tag and he has not signed it. Players under those circumstances cannot go to OTAs. And then Trevon Merrick.
Is the understanding that Jacobs will eventually sign it, or is he gonna hold out?
I think in a couple of weeks we'll probably really find out. I would expect a holdout, but I would also expect it to get figured out. I don't think he wants to play on the franchise tag for obvious reasons. I don't know how this is going to go. That should definitely be a topic for another day.
Who's the backup behind Josh Jacobs? Is it
Zamir White, Brandon Bolden, and Amir Abdullah? They didn't draft anybody this year at running back. They didn't even get an undrafted free agent, but they had a few guys from last year. Zamir White was a guy that I really liked out of last year's draft, but they didn't give him any carries. They gave Jacobs everything. I mean, he had 50% of the offense last year. And if they intend to keep doing that, like, I don't see how you don't sign him, but also, sometimes teams run running backs into the ground because they can contractually. and the players want that workload so that they can go get a big contract, but they run that risk of getting injured and they're cooked, you know. So again, I can understand why Josh Jacobs wants that big contract right now.
Well, yeah, no, and he's fully within his right to do so. He could tear his ACL, knock on wood. He could get seriously injured, and there goes the big payday that he's been working super hard for his whole life. Like, obviously, he got drafted in the first round, and he got money, but we're talking big, like,
this is,
you know what I'm saying?
This is like he got life-changing
money.
I'm saying? He already got life-changing money, but this next contract would be his grandchildren's lives.
Triple that.
Yeah. So yeah, Jacobs has been out of OTAs for obvious reasons. And then the other two players are Trevon Merrick, the free safety, ex-second round pick for the Raiders. I don't know exactly why he's missing OTAs. It might have to do with some injuries that he had last year. I'm not sure. And then the final name of note is Hunter Renfrow. And that is the specific reason why my theory.
Think he's going to get traded?
Yeah. I think that they might have told him, hey, stay home. We don't want you getting hurt.
We don't need you getting hurt.
Yeah. I think that's possible. I'm not saying, I think for sure that's what's happening, but the writing has been on the wall all offseason. Once they signed Jacoby Myers, almost said Brissett, they drafted a guy in the third round, a slot kick returner guy, Trey Tucker, and they signed a couple other, Philip Dorsett. It's like these are a lot of guys that play in the slot, and you already have the slot god in Hunter Renfrow. It's like, I don't know. So I just
Hunter Renfrow always struck me as like a diet version of Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, for sure. More of like
Kupp light.
Yeah, exactly. Cooper Kupp is more of an outside receiver. He's more of a Devontae Adams. Just do it all, Whereas Hunter Renfrow is very slot exclusive, but his route running is top tier, and his hands are also very reliable. And he's really shifty. Like,
he is
really great,
shifty.
Very great field awareness. He makes some really good moves on the field for his like not so physically impressive as he is. Like,
he's not a ginormous athletic specimen, but he has great control over his body.
Right. But at the same time, like, if you saw this Trey Tucker guy, like, or maybe think of like a Tyreek Hill or something, like a small guy, but they have an attribute like speed or really amazing elusiveness, like a Barry Sanders, that's like difference making. It's like Hunter Renfrow I think it's his field awareness, But Hunter Renfrow, to me, is a guy that comes off like a, keep your head down, no need to say anything, just go out there and put in work type of guy. So the fact that he's missing out on these OTAs just seems interesting to me. I mean, I heard somebody say that OTAs are kind of a way to like help implement an offense to like the new players, and it's good to have the leaders there to help teach that, but some of those guys that are there from last season don't need to be there type of thing. So maybe he's just getting extra time away or something. I don't know. But again, he's the type of guy that seems like a leader, and for him to not be there seems interesting to me.
Out of character.
Yeah, it seems out of character. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you very well might be right. Kind of seems like from what you said, the writing's on the wall.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll know the further we get into OTAs and the closer that we get to training camp.
I think we might know by the end of this week. If it's really a thing, we should know by Friday. But it's also possible that once June 1st comes, then the Raiders start talking to teams. I don't know. I have no idea. I also, again, I would keep him. So, but maybe they can get a really good player.
Yeah. If the Niners weren't so stacked, I would take Hunter Renfrow.
Dude, I think Hunter Renfrow would be amazing on the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. Maybe he could replace Juwan Jennings, but they're just completely different skill sets.
Yeah, well,
I
that's
think
why I
Ray
think
Ray
he would fit.
McLeod kind of brings what they would use Hunter Renfro for.
Mhm.
Our receivers right now, I think the depth chart is obviously Debo, obviously Ayuk. Um, we've got Juwan Jennings, number 3. Um, got obviously Ray Ray. I already mentioned. Uh, we signed this guy. I think his name is Isaiah Winstead. He's an undrafted rookie who looks pretty good. There's a rookie who looked very fast and had a couple flashy plays on social media. His name is Jacour Pearson. Uh, he's from the XFL, and apparently he was like Offensive Player of the Year or something
Huh,
like that. But Niners have not signed him, but he has worked out with them. Anybody is free to sign him. So
right,
whoever gets him, I think will get somebody who might be able to contribute here and there. Um, Niners also have Danny Gray, um, the 3rd round pick from last year.
right.
I don't know if we drafted anyone else or signed anyone else, but I know there's got to be more wide receivers on that depth chart. But you got to also consider this too. It's the Niners would have to give up something to get Hunter Renfro. Niners are kind of strapped for draft capital as it is. Well,
Yeah.
okay, because of the McCaffrey trade. I was going to say we finally finished paying off Trey Lance. It's about damn time. But
Paying off?
yeah, the draft picks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we finally have a first again.
Yeah. Eh,
So I just don't see. I don't see what necessarily we would gain. We would have to probably pay Renfro if we did trade for him. Uh, I think he would be a good addition to the offense, but I don't know if the bang for your buck is there to pursue him, because this at the end of the day, the 49ers are a run first team, and that's kind of their bread and butter.
yeah.
And yeah, I think they'll continue to be a run first team unless Brock Purdy comes back and is 100% healthy, and then they can go back to their short passing offense and occasional, set up a player downfield. Like I think the way the Niners offense was operating at the end of the season was beautiful. It was beautiful
Yeah.
offense.
I want to
Um,
say one thing about the Raiders, and then I want us to finish with the Niners. Okay.
yeah,
Just really quickly, as far as OTAs and like going into training camp goes, just some positional battles to look out for the Raiders. Backup wide receiver, and that might include the slot if Renfro goes, but specifically like the 4th and 5th receivers, there are a plethora of guys on the Raiders roster at wide receiver. It's going to be an amazing fight for those 2 or 3 spots on the roster. Right guard, I couldn't tell you who's going to start right now, unless it's Dylan Parham, the 3rd rounder from last year, who played left guard last season. He naturally was a right guard in college. That might be the more better spot for him, and maybe we have a positional battle at left guard. We'll see. Um, Basically, every possible linebacker position, whether it's inside and outside or whatnot, like everything goes for linebacker. Um, D tackle from the starter down, corner, outside corner, and slot. Um, and again, top to bottom, just interesting. And then free safety. Um, there are a lot of bodies that can fill those positions currently, and I don't know this. I think for these positions that don't have top end players, I really like what Dave Ziegler's done in the sense of making sure that the positions have potential to find somebody to do a good job. Like last year at right tackle, it felt like this is horrible. They went into like week 4 still doing the position battle where they would switch the rookie 7th round pick, forgetting his name right now, and Jermaine Elamanior. And eventually Jermaine Elamanior won the battle.
Jermaine Aubignor.
Yeah, Eliminor. I don't know. It's a he's
Jermaine Aubignor.
Open the door. Nice. But he ended up winning the battle after like week 4. Outright started from the rest of the season and did consistently was uphill. Like he consistently got better and better, and it worked out. And that's what I'm hoping for at corner. If it can't be a guy that's like a perennial, or not perennial, but like a guy that is immediately promising, like say a Jacorian Bennett, the rookie corner from Maryland this year, 4th round pick. I'd love for him to just go out there and just win the starting job and just take it and run it and become a top 10 corner in the league, but I doubt it, But at least they have enough bodies that I can see somebody coming out on top and it be a respectable starter this season, Like I think our first episode, I was very negative towards this team and what I expected based off of the schedule, but my thing that I kept saying was I've seen crazier things happen. I can see this team barely winning 6 games. I can also see this team squeaking out 10 wins and making the playoffs. But there's a lot of middle area where they'll probably land. Anyways, as far as the Niners goes, I don't know about you. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about, but I wanted to talk about the quarterbacks.
Dude, I was just going to say, as a person who watches 49er content creators practically every day, I know that it's impossible for a single Niner content creator to go a stream without talking about who should start at quarterback. It's impossible. I think so. We're 2 hours and 3 minutes into this stream, and I don't think we've talked about who should start. And I don't even know if we're going to even get into that because, like you said earlier, this was for another topic, but like you said earlier, not everything is just black and white. Everybody wants to pick, hey, Brock Purdy, he went 8-0. That should be our starter. Or, hey, Trey Lance, they can say he sucked. They can say, they invested a lot into him. I think it all factors in. But like I said, it factors in. There are factors to these things. There are reasons why maybe there might be smarter decisions at quarterback rather than just naming a starter here or, just picking a guy now and sticking with that guy. I think that in OTAs, I saw videos, different people like Grant Cohn, David Lombardi were posting different angles of Lance's mechanics, and they look much more refined. Did you see the video I sent you?
I actually did, and I can watch it right now though on Twitter.
Yeah. Hold on. Should I just pull it up?
Do it.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. I have this. Let's analyze. So Steph Sanchez, her @, is @Steph49K. She's a great content creator, by the way. So you guys should go check her out. She put together this video that is, I think, just fantastic at showing the difference between Lance's mechanics now and what they were his rookie year. And here, let me go ahead and share this window with you. Hopefully I don't get exposed or anything. Not that I have anything that would be expose worthy. But can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and play it. This is 2021. So much more compact, in my opinion. I'm not an expert on mechanics. I just see more lower body.
Can you go in? Well, actually, it doesn't matter. But I was going to say even make it maybe if you could slow it down even more. But it looks more fluid, and like you said, like with the legs, it looks a little bit more compact in the 2023 compared.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I'd
like to see the fast motion too.
He's pushing with his lower body more. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Also, I just got a notification, and now only one AirPod is going. We've sucked the battery life out of my AirPods, so I'll try to wrap this up as quick as I can, and maybe we can save it as a topic for another video. So this might be a record, going a whole stream without declaring who should start for the 49ers at quarterback. I would just like to take credit for that. There were other videos that I was going to show, but I think I'll just wrap it up because everybody's seen the videos of. Well, I think most Niner fans or people who care have seen.
Like you said, we can make this a topic on our next episode.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, that makes sense.
But when you consider the quarterback situation, I think that as of right now on the depth chart, you would probably have to have Lance at number 1 because you don't know what Purdy's going to be when he comes back. He had a very serious elbow surgery, and he's actually going to start throwing this week, or maybe he already started throwing.
That's what I wanted to talk about, is the fact that right now, just to kind of summarize, right now, Trey Lance is the QB1 at OTAs, which, there were like we talked about last time, there was the weird talk about Sam Darnold. It seems ridiculous for Sam Darnold to come in and day one get snaps over Trey Lance. It's stupid. But, yeah, apparently Brock Purdy is potentially going to begin throwing this week, which means that his elbow is healthy.
No. It's part of the rehab. He is not going to be throwing full strength. So for the next 3 months, he's going to be building more and more strength in that arm.
Right.
So
but
he's going to be throwing, but it's not going to be like, I don't think he's going to be doing the team drills and everything like that. So he'll probably just be on the side rehabbing and throwing the football and trying to build his arm up.
That makes way more sense.
Yeah. And I hope that he can go back to the level that he was playing at. I just worry that that defenses were starting to figure him out, because in the NFL level, unless you're Patrick Mahomes, unless you're like an elite quarterback, it may take some time, but you will get figured out. And really what separates the great players from the players who are just good, or the players that get figured out, is the ability to adjust and to still be able to make plays even though the defense knows exactly what's coming.
Yeah,
Are we talking about Ruggs?
Henry Ruggs?
No.
Damon Arnett? No, I was just gonna say, if Purdy gets hurt again, you better call the cops.
Yeah, Kyle, we're after you, dude. No more getting quarterbacks hurt, okay? And then that's another thing I wanted to say. So people have been bringing up a very good point that hopefully Purdy's not being rushed back. Because it kind of feels that way, but I'm not a medical expert.
Yeah,
I wonder if Jimmy should have gotten surgery, should have gotten the surgery that he had in March, if he would have gotten it cleaned up, or if he was being rushed back in order to play possibly in the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. I think it's a fair question. It's a fair thing to question, because it's not like teams haven't tried to rush players back before they're even ready. It happens all the time.
Right.
And before my AirPod dies, I just want to say that at the end of the day, I think having Lance be number one on the depth chart makes the most sense right now.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Purdy can prove that he is capable of playing at the level that he was playing before. He can slide back into that role if Lance doesn't just outright take it. I think Lance has an opportunity to take it, and they never look back. Because
He has.
if Lance is playing well, uh, if Lance is playing well, the offense is operating, they're winning football games. Why would you go away? You always got to ride the hot hand.
Yeah, that's what we talked about last time with Alex Smith and Kaepernick. Once a player starts on getting on a roll and he's starting and all that, it's like, why would you take that away from them? So I think Trey Lance has the golden opportunity this offseason to win the job. But if he goes out there, he doesn't win the job, Brock Purdy comes back into training camp, I don't know, and pretty soon starts throwing, and the team, the coaches, whatever, decide like he's clearly still got it or whatever, or maybe you give Trey Lance week 1 and 2, and at some point, maybe week 2 or 3, Brock Purdy comes in and the same thing happens where he just goes out there and slings it. We're gonna the conversation is gonna change for Trey Lance, and if this happens, it'll change to how much longer will he even be on this team? Because at that point, if Brock Purdy wins the job back from Trey Lance, because I think Trey Lance is clearly getting an opportunity to get the real head start this offseason. But if Brock Purdy still goes out there and earns the job from him, it's Brock Purdy's team.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say something quick. So this is going to be news, whether it be this week, next week, whenever it's going to come up. Sam Darnold is going to start getting first team reps because Kyle Shanahan has said that the reps are going to start evening out. Mm-hmm. Trey Lance started off as the number one. So people are going to spin it as if Lance is losing the job. But no, this is just part of Shanahan's plan.
Right.
And I think that the good news as a Niner fan is that the more quarterbacks who are competing, I think the better overall for everyone. So the best case scenario, whether you're a Trey Lance fan, if you're strictly just a Trey Lance fan, don't care about the 49ers, even so, it's better if Brock Purdy is healthy, because if you put pressure on Lance, if you put pressure on anybody, it's going to force them to try harder in order to compete and win. Competition brings the best out of everybody. So It's the way the Niners' history has always been.
And the same could be said about the Raiders if we want to wrap this up. As far as Garoppolo goes, right now it is brand new rookie Aiden O'Connell, and it is, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name.
Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer. Definitely for all of OTAs. We're not going to have our starting quarterback, so I'm not trying to switch it back to the Raiders, but just as far as for competition's sake and all of that, it's best to have those quarterbacks out there.
Hey, remember that deal that we made?
Yeah.
So the last time that Brian Hoyer was on a team with a later round draft pick rookie, CJ Beathard, 2017. 2 years later, that same team goes to the Super Bowl. Right?
Okay.
So check this out. Super Bowl in 2026. It's going to be at Levi's.
Right.
So if my logic holds true, 2 years from now, the Raiders will be in the Super Bowl at Levi's.
You mean 3?
Well, let's see. this year is 2023. Next will be. Oh shit.
Well, I mean, it's the 2026 Super Bowls, but it's the 2025 season.
Okay, so I'm still. It
Yeah.
still holds true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 49er fans, we have a Super Bowl to look forward to. All this OTA shit doesn't matter.
I mean, just imagine.
Let's just start the parade now.
Just imagine we can look back at like these videos, and as you know, all Niner fans can look back at this offseason and previous seasons and off seasons relative to the quarterback. If you guys go to the Super Bowl this year, coming out of all of this uncertainty, I mean, you guys are in a nice scenario in the sense that you have two guys that are clear-cut options, you know, whereas right now the Raiders have no options other than Jimmy G. You know, you have two guys that can definitely do it, in my opinion. At least Brock Purdy has proven it. Trey Lance has the tools, you know. And I think if he is getting more refined and all of those things, he can go out there and he can do it for sure because he has the talent, the capabilities, you know. It's just a matter of doing it on the field. But what a story it would be if you guys did go to the Super Bowl this year, you know.
I don't want to just go. I want to win. I've seen them go a couple times now. It hurts, okay? It hurts a little less than last, but you know, I just want to see them win a Super Bowl, dude. And you know,
same for the
not
Raiders.
only that, I'm really intrigued by just the talent. Well, honestly, I'm intrigued by both Lance and Purdy's story. Whoever does it, I would be happy for whoever. But oh man, what I would give to have an MVP quarterback, you know, it would just be fantastic to watch.
Yeah, actually, you know what? This is a great moment to bring something up, and this can wrap it up. Okay. I think you texted it to me, so let me just look here real quick. Yes. Shout out to Renee Dominguez, our first ever comment.
Yeah, shout out to Renee. We really appreciate the comment. Anybody who watches our videos, you are fully encouraged to comment and share your thoughts on all our streams. What were you going to say, Mike?
Well, just in the topic at hand in regards to his comment was in response to, I think, me talking about my theory, if you will, that the Raiders are going to attempt to make a run at a top tier rookie quarterback in next year's draft. And he was saying something along the lines of, we don't need a top tier quarterback. We just need to make the team better, shore up the team, shore up the defense, surround a good quarterback with a great team, and you can win. And that's what the Niners have right now. But in a way, sort of, to counter that, you look at these teams, and part of his point was, you had, like, say, the Ravens back in the day with Trent Dilfer, or like the Buccaneers to beat the Raiders with Brad Johnson. Like, you have these teams, Joe Flacco's Ravens, Nick Foles. You have these guys that go out there with amazing teams and these game managers that can just get it done, and that's cool. But that's, like, in my opinion, you have to do all the work everywhere else and still find a very capable quarterback. Whereas if you can get yourself a Patrick Mahomes, they just won the Super Bowl, and everybody was saying they might not even make the playoffs this past season, because their competition was going to be too strong with the Chargers, maybe the Raiders, and the Broncos with Russell Wilson, because they lost Tyreek Hill and all these things. It was like, oh, the Chiefs might not even make the playoffs. They go win the Super Bowl.
Dude, don't pull a Travis Kelce, man. Travis Kelce was like, no, they were saying that we wouldn't even make the play. Dude, nobody was saying that. Nobody was serious about that, dude. Come on.
There were some people that definitely were, but yeah, definitely not everybody. Like, I was sitting there going, I'm not going to doubt them, but I don't think they're going to be as good. I didn't think they were going to go out there and win a Super Bowl, and they did. And that was because of Patrick Mahomes, but also Andy Reid is I'd say the best coach in football right now. But
hands down.
I think you get yourself a Joe Burrow, you get yourself a Patrick Mahomes, you get yourself one of those, a Jalen Hurts, you know, that changes everything. So, like you said, you want to see, or how cool would it be to see an MVP quarterback win you guys a Super Bowl? That's what I'm hoping for with the Raiders. No matter what, whether it's an MVP or not, I just want to see a Super Bowl win with my Raiders team. But I think in today's NFL, the way to do that is to go out and get yourself a top tier, like top 5 quarterback. And I think the only way to do that is to get a top 5 draft pick. Probably
I don't
a top
just
2.
want to win a Super Bowl though. I want to be proud of a team that I can tell my kids about or tell my grandkids about.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
everybody always talks about Joe Montana, Steve Young. I wasn't alive.
Yeah.
I wasn't alive. I want my own story.
Yeah. Same for me with like the 1976 Raiders. Like some people, including my dad, say like that's one of the best teams ever. You know, that's John Madden's team, Ken Stabler, Fred Biletnikoff, you know. Yeah, I would love to see a team that, you know, as I grow older go, that was legendary, you know. So, yeah, I agree.
Quick question, Mike. So I know you got your new computer. It's got Windows 11. In the bottom left, does it say I-880 North accident?
Bottom left, no.
Like you know the taskbar. It's like all the way on the bottom left of your screen. Maybe it shows the weather.
Okay. I see the weather, but no, it doesn't say that. On my, if I go to like Microsoft Edge, it would show me that.
No, I'm not talking about Microsoft Edge. I'm talking about like in the inside the browser. Like right now, it just changed for me. It says 54 degrees Fahrenheit, partly cloudy.
No, I don't have that yet. I might have to like mess around with my computer a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I could bring it over. Maybe you could help me with it.
Hell yeah, brother.
Sweet.
Yeah, but you know, go Niners. That's the show.
Yeah, and go Raiders.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And like we said, we appreciate comments. If you guys want to call us out on our takes, we can take the heat. You know,
and
you know, maybe you might convince us of something that we hadn't considered. So please, I think it's good to get opposing or, you know, just everybody's opinion. So with that, I'm going to end the stream, but first, you know what time it is. Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.